Hey everyone, it's Dr. K. So there are different strategies to protect your spine, and a debate exists about whether abdominal hollowing or spinal bracing is a better approach. I've done posts on both techniques in the past, so if you haven't seen them, do yourself a favor, go take a look, find something out about your body. But essentially, abdominal hollowing is where we're drawing in the navel and the belly button back towards the spine. And what we're doing is we're activating the transverse abdominis, which wraps around the entire abdominal region, and it contracts and it creates stiffness and stability around the spine, protecting it from getting moved out of position. Now, abdominal bracing, on the other hand, is almost like you're going to get punched in the abdomen, and so you tighten your core. And by increasing the intra-abdominal pressure, you're really creating stiffness around the spine, and you're basically, again, protecting it from shifting or moving around abnormally. So which one is the best approach to protect and stabilize your spine? People have a tendency to kind of just pick one approach and ignore the other, but the body wants good movement variability to deal with the unexpected. That's what you should have. So what you need to do is listen to the research that supports them both. So anytime that we push or pull or press, or we're lifting off the floor with our arms, our upper control zone has to work really well with our central control zone and our core. Same thing goes with our lower control zone and our pelvis. Now, abdominal hollowing is typically emphasized in fitness and Pilates studios, and what you see is they're trying to create a very local effect for activation. And that transverse abdominis is a very specific muscle that's being activated, and it's part of the deep musculature that's getting activated, okay? So what ends up happening is this might be an approach that we'll utilize for pre-activation strategies. And I would definitely do it for any lighter loads. So if I'm picking up, my toddler, if I'm picking up my dogs, this might be a strategy that I'd utilize if I'm doing those things. Now, abdominal bracing, on the other hand, it takes a more global pattern, and we notice whenever we test it that it activates a lot of surface musculature. Now, for spinal bracing, I would still use this as pre-activation, but I would actually also use it during activity. And so I would use it during activity with heavier loads on my body as well. So maybe I'd use it if I'm picking up my toddler and my dog, or all three of my dogs, or especially if I'm in the gym and I'm trying to create stiffness around the spine. The ultimate goal is we need to protect our spine, protect our position, and create stiffness so that we don't develop an injury. We don't move differently, we don't move weird, that creates stress on our body. The reality is, there's a lot more muscles than just the transverse abdominis. We're talking about the obliques, the rectus abdominis, the QL. All of those have been shown to have delayed activation patterns in people with low back pain. And so what we need to do is kind of get everything moving and activated at the right time, in the right order. You can definitely do that with abdominal hollowing, but realistically, if you're doing abdominal bracing, you're activating the transverse abdominis as well. So if somebody's got lower back pain, abdominal hollowing can definitely help. But if you're looking at it and you said, okay, I'm just going to pick one kind of option, abdominal hollowing, you might not be doing enough, because remember, spinal bracing gets a global activation pattern. So abdominal bracing, basically can help with people with low back pain, chronic low back pain as well, because you're getting basically all the surface area musculature involved as well. So what I would tell you is practice good movement variability. Don't just kind of stick to one approach. In clinic, I might use cueing of abdominal hollowing to get somebody to understand and wake up and feel what those muscles feel like when they're turned on. But we might use it as a home exercise to kind of progress into more substantial abdominal bracing strategies to get more stabilization with our functional movement patterns, like our squat, our hinge, deadlift, lifting off the floor, those kinds of things. So don't pick one over the other. Your body always wants those options, the movement variability, and so that's why you practice. I think you should practice both. So sometimes you have to focus on pieces and not the whole. So incorporating abdominal hollowing is focusing on the pieces. You're training that one specific muscle to turn on and work. But the basic pattern that you want with heavier activities, heavier loads, should be spinal bracing. And so you need to do good, strong spinal bracing to support the spine, protect any unwanted movement, especially as you start to do heavier lifting in the gym or heavier, kind of more functional demands out in the real world. So I know all this is, sometimes brand new information for people. I would challenge you to start thinking about these concepts, and don't forget about breathing, because breathing really kind of shows significant increases in some of the same musculature being activated compared to just doing one or the other strategy. So, do yourself a favor, start practicing these things. And I would say if you're gonna start to pick a pattern to follow, start off with maybe the abdominal hollowing just to get perspective, and then start queuing up your nervous system. And then start really working towards that global activation pattern like spinal bracing. So I'm celebrating your success already. Stay strong, inspire others.